Welcome back to the final race of the evening of round 3, Series 5, the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing from Barber Motorsports Park, just outside of Birmingham, Alabama, where the Pro Class presented by Porsche is up for show. And the best of the best in PCA Sim Racing will take to this track. But the story has been the newcomer in this series. Series 5 so far, property of Teddy Framheim out of the Golden Gate region, Taylor.
He certainly has. I mean, he's dominated this class here for the past 2 weeks, and he's going to do it again by dominating proportions. Over 0.4 of a second separates him as far as in qualifying between him and Christopher Pye. So, I mean, this guy who is supposedly a rookie knows his way around these Porsche GT4s.
Came in last week at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and said he had no experience in the sim on the track beforehand, but clicked it off very quickly, and it seems like he's found something here as well, because Teddy Framheim starts on pole again with a 128.463, again 0.4 quicker than anybody else in the field. It's almost alien-like speed for the 106 car. Christopher Pye will start in P2 tonight. Jason Lisner out of the First Settlers region rolls off from 3rd. 4th will be the 28 of Greg Carr. Michael Coopersmith begins tonight from 5th. 6th will be the 12 car James Hugh. Lee Peterson rolls off from 7th. Billy Smith, Series 1 champion, begins tonight from the 8th position. 9th belongs to Dylan Kostanak, and Chris Walsh will roll off this evening from P10.
Robert Rattray will start in 11th, followed by Dewey Kang in 12th. James Patak will be starting in 13th, followed by Chris Braun in 14th. Joshua Vieira will be starting in 15th, with William Anderson 16th. 17th goes to Matthew Kikas, followed by Michael Johnson in 18th. Jacob Schum in 19th. Rounding out your top 20, Shabala Benjopaje.
21st this evening will be Mark Youth. 22nd on the grid will be Igor Soiker, who was a class champion in the spring in Series 4. Jonathan Shum rolls off from 23rd. 24th is Charlie Allen. Matt Mitchell, 25th this evening. 26th is where Gabriel Obano will start. Leo Redzitis and Christian Ramos start 27th and 28th this evening. We turn to the track facts quickly before we go green flag racing for the final time tonight. This is, once again, Barber Motorsports Park in Leeds, Alabama. We've run the full layout here this evening, which is a 2.38-mile, 3.83-kilometer circuit with 10 turns. We race at sunrise yet again. It's just before 7 a.m. Eastern Time on May 15, 2020, the default day for iRacing in Sim. And it is, yet again, 70 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 71 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, winds headed to the east at 10 miles an hour, and humidity of 80% in Sim. We yet again race for 40 minutes plus whatever is needed for the leader to complete a lap. And Teddy Framheim is going to look to make it 3 for 3. And as you look down this field, Taylor Burris, if he's going to have a challenger, are there any drivers that stand out to you as people who might be able to pull Teddy Framheim off of the perch that he's been on these first 2 weeks?
I had to go with a former competitor last season in Series 5 is Jason Lisner. He always was a very strong competitive driver, always going toe-to-toe with our previous champion, Michael Polasek. So I'm going to keep my eye on Jason Lisner, but you also got to count the former champion, Billy Smith, too.
Billy Smith also in the mix too. He'll start 8th this evening. Veterans here, runner-up in Series 1, winner of the final race in Series 1, and I think 3rd in points in Series 1, Jason Lisner will start from P3 this evening, incidentally. But Chris Pye, Greg Parr, James Youth, Lee Peterson, Dewey Kang, James Patak, all drivers who have experience from Series 1 and on and on and on, and certainly have the knowledge to see what may come forth. But Teddy Framheim has been the man, and it's all about how this field can stop him. All eyes on Framheim and Pies as they will lead us to the green flag for the final time. So we thank Porsche for their partnership and presentation of the Pro Class, the PCA Sim Racing Series 5. Round 3 about to begin. We are off and away for the final time tonight at Barber Motorsports Park. And a good jump there for Framheim. Maybe a better one for Pies and Lisner as everybody begins to fan out. They'll go 2x2 into that first corner. And a big move there. Oh, contact there. It's car sideways and around as they all slide through turn 1 and try and avoid all the madness. And that completely shook up everything. That was Michael Coopersmith that went around in the pink big machine, and Coopersmith in trouble in short order. He tried to get down to the inside at the beginning of turn 1 on Jason Lisner. The room wasn't there, and they just couldn't get the car turned before he got into the side of Greg Carr, and then spun around in the middle of turn 1 and was collected, I think, eventually by the 41 machine of William Anderson.
All 4 tires are still on the number 28 of Greg Carr, but I got to say, there's got to be some suspension damage after that contact.
Must be some sort of damage there. As Dewey King looking to the inside of Mark Hughes a little bit further back in this field. But at the front, Teddy Framheim out by maybe 6-7 tenths of a second over Lisner, who caught the grass on the curves the first time around. And now we start searching through. It is Kang, honestly, where the best battles are. There's a lot of racing happening around that part of the track. And we'll see if Kang can work his way up the field and continue to shuffle around as he's got that Kramer Racing throwback on his car. Arguably the most iconic of all the liveries in PCA sim racing. And Dewey, plenty of fun to hang around, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. Dewey was always a blast to hang out, especially when we were together at Daytona. Always had some great stories, and, was always a fan of the retro style of Porsches. One of the things I remember him having was the old retro Coca-Cola Porsches that he had actually bought one of the old style Coca-Cola hats that Porsche drove with back in 2018, 2019 to celebrate the heritage of Porsche Motorsports back in the 80s and 90s.
So Michael Coopersmith on pit road for his orange zone violation, that incident on the first lap. Teddy Framheim up in front of this field, but Chris Pye is beginning to gain on Jason Lisner to try and take over that second position. And as we begin to pick our way through the field, the battle pack's beginning to develop. We're starting to see where we're going to have some side-by-side action tonight. And I think Dewey Kang is right where you need to hang. You ride with Jason Lisner now, but Kang and company just tooth and nail back there about 15th, 16th as you now ride on board with the driver in P17, looking out at Liam Radzitis out of the Upper Canada region of the PCA just in front.
Yeah, he's got a great run to catch up to Liam Radzitis, but they're currently having to try to find a way to get around Shabala Benyopaje. As you see, Radzitis work the outside now as he runs down up to turn number 10 and 11 now as they climb uphill. As you see, Shabala drops behind and he goes around. Hard contact to the Armco barrier as the rest of the field goes up by him. He's going to drop all the way down to probably 25th, 26th by the time he gets going.
Big mistake for Benyopaje as we see a few more cars come in. Matthew Kikus also had an incident on that first lap, so he will come in to serve a penalty. Teddy Framheim stretches lead out to 1.2 seconds over Jason Lisner, who now has Chris Pies in his rearview mirror, and Pies is only maybe about 3 or 4 tenths of a second back of that number 92 for the second position.
Yeah, so a lot of action going all over the racetrack here as early on in the race. I mean, this is only lap 3, 36 minutes left to go on the clock. So this is probably one of the most craziest races that we've had out of the 4 races here. Now, nobody in the other 3 classes was this crazy and hectic and daring than this class here with the Pro Series.
Chris Walsh being stalked by Leif Peterson in the 913. You see Peterson highlighted on your screen as he continues to hound the rear bumper of the 104 machine. And Peterson, another one of those veterans of PCA sim racing out of the Maverick region, which covers the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And Chris Walsh, also a man with plenty of experience to boot in his own right. Walsh, one of the drivers who is been around for a decent while out of the Carolinas region of the PCA, which covers most of the Piedmont of North and South Carolina. Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, Charlotte, Greenville, and Spartanburg down in South Carolina. Metro areas that you'll find in the Carolina region of the PCA.
Pretty much your area of the PCA if you had a Porsche.
Home region for yours truly in the PCA. So Teddy Framheim's out in front by 1.3. Chris Walsh and James Lee Peterson really tight there, and they almost came together over in 3. Looked like Peterson thought he had a move on the inside and then just couldn't quite get there in time to make it stick. So he'll continue to chase after Chris Walsh and continue to hound the 104, but Peterson clearly has some speed.
He certainly does, and is putting the pressure on the back bumper of Chris Walsh as they go down the straightaway before they get to turn number 7. Hit the braking zone they will go as they go downhill. 2 wheels for Chris Walsh, though, as he clicks the curb right there and has a great drive off. But here comes Leif Peterson with a head of steam as well, as he gets a better exit as well as they go head to the little left-right complex before they head down the back straightaway.
I thought for a moment that Chris Walsh was going to end up overshooting corner exit, opening the door on the inside for Leif Peterson, but instead he managed to keep it in one piece and actually just stretched it out a little bit on Leif Peterson on the back half of this course. So it might be a case where we may have drivers who are faster in different parts. Looks like Peterson's definitely faster in the first half of the lap. Maybe Walsh has the back half of this racetrack nailed down a little bit better than Peterson does.
As they come across the line, we're looking at timing and scoring right now, and it looks like Chris Walsh ran a 1:29.74, about a tenth faster than Leif Peterson, who ran a 1:29.81. So definitely shows quite a bit of speed between these two drivers, but Chris Walsh just had a little bit of an advantage as they now go through turn number 2. Up the hill they'll go to make the run to turn 4.
Coming up the hill to 4, 5 again, working their way towards that hairpin. This is one of the best battles on the racetrack. You've got Greg Carr and James Heath just ahead of these two that are also nose to tail. As Framhine's out in front by 1.5 over Jason Lisner, so you're not missing much up there. Meanwhile, now we have a side-by-side battle. Now it's Peterson and Walsh who will go into the 7-8 complex, somehow keep it together and not run over each other. That's very tough to do given how narrow turns 7 and 8 are, but they managed to make it stick, and Walsh maintains P6 for the moment.
That is a very brave move that we saw Chris Walsh do, trying to hold off Leif Peterson as they go down the back straightaway once again. Great battle, great clean sportsmanship between the two drivers, giving each other a little room, but still racing each other to the absolute limit.
Absolutely on the limit are these two. It's a great battle between these two, and really good stuff between James Hugh and Greg Carr as well just up the road. We haven't forgotten about that battle either as those two continue to go after it. So really good stuff for 4th, really good stuff for 6th, and then the front 3 a little bit more settled as Jason Lisner started to stretch it out on Chris Paz. That's up to 0.6 of a second from the 0.3 of a second that it was a few laps ago.
Yeah, so that's turning everybody in the top 3 is trying to get settled in, run their race, try to even save a little fuel. They have about a 3.5 second lead over Greg Carr and the rest of the field right now. So they could definitely, if they wanted to save a little fuel, try and get to the end. So that way they have less fuel to put in, or possibly, just possibly, they could have enough saved where they can make it to the end. We'll have to wait and see as they are working their way out of turn 7.
You would figure you're going to have to see a splash of gas at some stage, right? That's been pretty consistent across a lot of these top-tier classes. It's really only the challenge class that was able to save enough to make it on the end. So you figure at some point you'll see some of these drivers hit. We've already seen a few come down and make that happen. Michael Johnson came down and got out of the way of everybody else. So he's made his pit stop already. It looks like he's the one to try the Chambonnet short pitting strategy that we saw in the last race.
Yeah, I think for it to that strategy to really work, the best time to come in would maybe be around lap 10 or 12, between lap 10 and 12, to really capitalize on a shot of making pit stop strategy. If you're going late, if these drivers are going to try to pit as late as possible, especially those who are up in the front half of the field, top 10 or up. But for those in the back, they need to maybe consider coming down pit road anywhere between lap 10 to lap 12, just before the halfway point.
You can get yourself into a rhythm that it allows you to start clicking off lap times, and you'll end up gaining more time if you pit early. If you stayed out and came in late, where you sort of break the strategy in the last 10 minutes, it becomes the most critical part of the race to try and string together laps when you need them the most. So just different takes on strategy and different ways that you can play with cars to get you home at the end of 40 minutes here at Barber Motorsports Park. That's the key at the end of all of this, is making sure that you come away with a solid finish, because Greg Carr, James Heath continue to work. But you look at Josh Vieira now, who has a pretty good battle going with our Series 1 champion, Billy Smith.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to touch on this battle right now. They're coming down through turn 7A through C and coming off of turn number 8. But Joshua Vieira is putting on a really good performance right here, keeping up with the former series champion, Billy Smith, as they come up to the left-right complex here before they head down the back straightaway. Nice sweeping corner exit for both drivers as they track out to that curbing down the back straightaway, not touching the grass, which is very critical, especially through that section, because if you touch the grass, you're pretty much going to go spinning your car around as they climb up the hill to the back half of the course.
Billy Smith out of the Maverick region of the PCA. Again, Dallas-Fort Worth. Vieira out of the Potomac region, which covers the Washington, D.C. area. So, Dallas versus Washington. Where have I heard that one before, Taylor Burris?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe in the NFL, I would assume. Especially around the Thanksgiving holiday?
Well, I was about to say, no, this is not hand egg, even though, incidentally enough, the cars are painted the opposite colors of the teams that they would represent. Washington having those sort of deep red colors and Dallas having the blue. It's incidentally Billy that's got the deep red and Josh that has the blue. So
I think we need to swap colors here automatically as, Joshua Vieira almost got into the back bumper of Billy Smith going into turn 4.
Well, he was trying to send it in there to get a room underneath Billy Smith, but ended up just sending it too far. So that breaks that battle up a bit, stretches the gap to 0.8 of a second as Chris Walsh continues to keep Leif Peterson at bay. This has been fantastic throughout the first 10 to 12 minutes or so. And beyond that, some good racing a little bit further back. Mark Keith and Liam Renzi sitting a battle for 12th and 13th. You could say the same for Charlie Yao and Robert Rattray and Jonathan Shum. All three of those, 17th, 18th, 19th. Really good stuff here at the back of the field because it's 5 cars that are trading spots seemingly with every corner.
Yeah, and it's a great battle here between these drivers. Putting on a great show as Rattray will try to get around Charles Yao for position. And he will make the pass as they come down to the back straightaway. As we see Charles Yao definitely trying to put the pressure, trying to hold off Robert Rattray as they climb up the hill, but then you see Rattray just easily make the pass, and Yao could actually use 2 positions to the 41 of Anderson.
Anderson with that damage, he was the one who ended up running into Michael Coopersmith at the very beginning of this race. That's where the right front damage comes on his machine. Not much he could have done, I think, to avoid that incident. So it's not quite the run that I think he wanted to have, but all the while gets that run on Charlie Yao coming down the front straightaway. Will be to the inside in 1, but that isn't necessarily the best of things here at Barber, just because turns 2 and 3 are so sweeping and they take forever to get around. You really want to be on the inside there, I think, more than in turn 1.
You certainly do. I mean, those corners are going to be so critical to try to hug the inside to make the pass work for your competitors and get around them as quickly as possible, because once you get up to turn 4, you got to be careful of people trying to dive it in there, just overshoot the corner and risk turning your car around if they don't get out of the way quick enough. So it's best to try to make the pass and get away when you come up through laps turn 2 and turn 3.
Valid points on all fronts there as the lead continues to grow for Teddy Fremont. 3 seconds now to Jason Lisner. Then Chris Pies and Lisner running nose to tail, but about 0.6 of a second between those 2 drivers. And now Greg Carr, running up James Hughes and Chris Walsh and Lee Peterson. They've all caught the 28 machine. So these 2 individual battles of 2 have now become one big battle of 4. Remind you that tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing is brought to you by our partners at Virtual Racing School. VRS, the official provider of setups, if these drivers so choose, for Series 5 of PCA Sim Racing. And if you want to learn more about how you can improve your lap times and pick up the best setups in sim racing, turn your attention to virtualracingschool.com for more information. I'm waiting to see where we get developments in the car. Heath, Walsh, Peterson, and even almost Joan Kostanak. And you can just about check him in this mess too, because they continue to stack up behind the 28 machine. And at some point, somebody's going to make a move here.
Somebody should be making a move any lap now as they are coming out of turn number 7. Greg Carr is doing a great job of racing and having a great run, but he's holding up the field. I'm wondering what will happen if a driver such as James Hughes, Chris Walsh, or even Leif Peterson find a way to get around him.
Carr continues to shuffle around. Hughes then, Walsh then trying to make his way through. Peterson in the ballpark. Kostanak also fighting and trying to make something happen. But everybody here just following Greg Carr, who is the Pied Piper at the moment, and trying to shuffle everybody behind him. Carr out of the Central New York region of the PCA, which covers Binghamton, Oswego, and Syracuse, New York. So any affiliation with the Orange might have a driver to cheer for here.
Yeah, Greg Carr is still trying to do a great job of holding on to that fourth position, but as we see, Chris Walsh and the rest of that top 10 is starting to get a little bit antsy as they see the top three just pulling away. 6 seconds separate from third and to fourth position, so definitely losing a lot of time on the top three.
Losing lots of time, I think, but then again, Framheim's been faster than everybody else. He had to pull 3/10 on Lisner that last lap, and I think more importantly, you look at the front three. It was a 28.8, a 29.1, a 29.1, and then Carr ran a 29.9. So I think that explains why we've got the stack up behind him. You've got drivers that have more pace than the 28, but just haven't found a way to get around the 28 yet. It may end up breaking itself up when they get the opportunity. And we might see someone short pit perhaps to try and make the pass happen, but as it stands, we'll see how it shakes out.
Let's take a look at this battle right here with James Patak in the Haggerty colored Porsche. He's currently running in P11 of that 721, having a great run tonight as he works his way to try to hold off Liam Brazitas in the 05 from the Upper Canada region. As they go down into turn 13, you see Liam trying to get a good run through turn 13 and 14, but is not able to get to the inside of our Haggerty driver as he comes out of the final corner, and James Patak once again pulls off and holds off from the Beach State region.
James Patak, yes, one of the Team Haggerty drivers, as you mentioned, and another one of the Peach Staters too. He got really close to wide there. It was really scary for a moment for the 721 machine. It was tight, it was close, but he managed to keep at least two wheels on the asphalt. Problem is that Liam Radzitis may come, and now Patak's not going to put up the fight. So he'll let Radzitis go, and Liam Radzitis now up into P11.
He is doing everything that he can in order to get his way up through the field right now, but it's going to be a tall order for him as they continue on.
And as quickly as we had one battle, we lose another, as Billy Smith is able to clear Josh Vieira once again. And Radzitis will now try and chase that pair down. They're next up on the road for him. I think you still have the group of Carr, Huth, Walsh, Peterson, but Huth is just hanging about, waiting for his moment. I figure at some point here, as he goes sideways and somehow saved it. It was tight. It was close. He just about went off into the barriers on the right side, the way a lot of people have tonight, but he kept it in one piece. But he's going to come down pit road immediately with, it looked like one of the car. Couldn't quite see who that was that came with him. It's Lee Peterson. So Peterson and Huth will come in for their service now, and that splits up the group that have been together between Carr and Walsh. So this is their answer. If you can't get around and Carr on the racetrack, let's short pit and see if we can jump him on pit strategy when he comes back out.
Well, they're going to have to see what they can do right now, so it's going to have to be a very quick stop. They're going to try to get the cars fueled up, ready to go, and continue to get back out on the track. So we'll have to keep an eye and see what they do.
Be very interesting to see where they pop out more than anything else. That, I think, is the biggest question, and see what kind of traffic they are or aren't going to have to work with. The good news is that they won't really have to deal with any traffic coming from behind, and not really much to deal with in front either. Igor Soiker is the next car up the road from Leif Peterson, and there's about maybe a 4-second gap between those two. So all the space in the world for Peterson and Huth to run whatever lines they so choose. And now this thing becomes about Greg Carr and Chris Walsh. And I think maybe more importantly now, Chris Walsh is the one to watch, because he's the one that decided to stay out with Carr. And now that he's got space and he's not directly tucked up behind this pack of cars, how quick is he? What sort of lap times does he run? And is he in more Carr's ballpark, or is he faster than Carr? And is that strategy call that Huth and Peterson just made something that maybe Walsh might need to look into if he's got the 28 beat on pace?
Well, let's take a look as they come across the line right now. This time around, Greg Carr comes across. He runs a 1:29.83 as Christopher Walsh 129.52. So Christopher Walsh about 0.3 of a second faster than Greg Carr in his 28 Porsche.
And as the clock strikes 20 minutes, we will begin to turn our attention to the midway race break, which is brought to you this evening for the Pro Class by Porsche. Teddy Framheim, P1 by 3.6 seconds. No surprise to see the Golden Gate region driver out in front again. Jason Lisner with a strong performance, a vintage performance in very Series 1S form. He rides P2 at the moment out of the First Settlers region. He's trailed closely, though, by Chris Pines. The Texan rides in third at this stage, in front of Greg Carr, who's a little bit further back up the racetrack, who was leading that pack for a while before they split up on pit strategy. Chris Walsh rides in the fifth position in the 104 machine. Derwin Costanak holds P6 in the 190. It's then Josh Vieira who sits 7th. 8th, the man out of the Upper Canada region, Liam Radzitis. Billy Smith, the champion of Series 1, rides in P9. And James Patak, the Team Haggerty, rides along in 10th.
Mark Huth, currently started in 21st, sits in the 11th position, while Dewey Kane, he's sitting where he started in the 12th position. Igor Soiker is sitting in 13th after starting 22nd, with Leif Peterson 14th and James Huth 15th. Those two drivers, they just recently made a pit stop, so we'll be keeping track to see what they can do on the short pit that they decided to do. Robert Rattray is currently sitting in 16th, followed by William Anderson, who's currently sitting 17th. Charles Yao, who started 24th, he's worked his way up to the 18th position, with Michael Johnson 19th. Chris Braun started 14th, he has dropped all the way back to 20th position.
20th is unique, Chris Braun. You've got Shababa Yopana in 22nd, but then Yopadkai, who races out of the metropolitan New York region, is surrounded by a trio of Carolina region drivers. Jacob Chu riding in 20th now. So Yopana comes down, or actually Chris Braun comes down for service. So Braun's there. And then Matthew Kikas and Jonathan Chu now 23rd and 24th. And 22nd and 23rd as Braun continues to pit. But both those two drivers out of the Carolina region. Gabriel Albano next in line. Then Michael Coopersmith. Then Matt Mitchell riding in 27th was Christian Rava in 28th off track at this time. And that concludes your midway race break for the Pro Class. PCA Sim Racing, which is presented by Porsche. It is a steady growth for the race lead of Teddy Framheim. It is 4 seconds that we have cleared now. There's not really much competition for that 106 machine. It has just been very sort of William Levesque-esque dominant. It feels so much like Series 2 all over again.
It certainly does. I mean, we haven't seen other drivers like this since William Levesque. I mean, Michael Polasek, we know last season put on a dominant performance, but he also had Jason Lindner giving him a lot of pressure as well. Here, Teddy Framheim hasn't had any pressure since the drop of the green flag. He has pulled away and pretty much just checked out on the field as his lead continues to grow. So this is a great opportunity for him to try and conserve and save a little fuel.
Framheim's already basically made his way to Gulf Shores at this point to go down to the beach, just with the way he's been running that much quicker than everybody else in this field. It is thoroughly impressive to see what that 106 is able to do over the course of a 40-minute period. Lisner and Pies just sort of been hanging together, and now Chris Walsh has caught Greg Carr, so this could be the moment where we might see Walsh come down in pit road, because he may deal with the same issue that we saw Peterson come to do. And I thought he was going to duck to the outside to go to pit road. Instead, he's going to get to the inside of Carr, and I think this might be where, I thought it might be where the pass happened, but Carr maintained the line, maintained the spot.
He is so close to making this pass work, and I think if Chris Walsh is able to get around Greg Carr, he could maybe at least attempt to try to go get a podium finish and find a way to get up to Christopher Pies and Jason Lisner, but still a lot is at stake. Meanwhile, a little further back in the 8th position, we have a great battle between drivers Billy Smith and James Patak. Patak is looking to the inside as they come out of turn number 2, climbing up the hill through turn 3 before they make the run to turn 4, but both these two drivers lined up nose to tail now.
This is 8th and 9th. There's the send off to the inside as Patak will jump to the inside of Billy Smith, and they get down to the apex to make sure Smith can't return the favor on corner exit. So Patak for Team Haggerty up into P8 now.
Great run for the Haggerty team as they're now heading down towards turn number 7. Hit the braking zone, they'll go. Patak just barely gets through there. Nice run through there. Holds his line as he tries to hold off the Series 1 champion. Billy Smith, though, still going to be in hot pursuit of James Patak.
So this is all about those two, but now I think all eyes have to fall on Walsh and Carr. And does Walsh make the same decision to come down pit road earlier? Does he continue to try and fight? And he is going to run it wide, try and get the big charge to the inside and be there when they come into that corner. He's tried that a few times now, and it just hasn't worked for the number 104 machine gun.
It really hasn't. He's tried every different line, and he just can't get the momentum he needs in order to make the pass work. As they now dive into turn 1, you see Chris Walsh is just looking as he goes out a little bit wider compared to Greg Carr. You see Greg hugging that inside line to the best of his ability, while you see Walsh trying to back it up a little bit and take a little bit of a higher arc in to get that second apex run as they now work their way to turn 4.
This is every trick in the book for Chris Walsh. I think that's the biggest thing. He's really trying to find something that he can use in order to make his way up towards the front, as he continues to sit behind Greg Carr, who hangs out and hangs tight. Walsh, again, a Carolinas region driver. Carr out of the Central New York region. So New York, North Carolina, two of the two-word state names doing battle for P4 and P5, and it is still the tightest battle on the racetrack outside of Lisner and Pies, which has gotten a little bit closer as this race has progressed, but those two have pretty much been right on top of one another for the majority of this race to date.
Yeah, keeping each other very clean and racing each other very hard indeed as they come out of the final corner. Down the front straightaway they will go, and both of them running very good lap times. Lisner just ran a 1:29.6 as they came across the line, and they have actually caught up to Teddy Framheim by about 0.7 of a second. The only thing, though, is catching is one thing. Passing, whole other ball game.
Passing is indeed an entirely different ball game. It is going to be a big ask, and now Josh Vieira is going to come in after he ended up with some form of damage on that last lap. Not quite sure what happened to Vieira. We'll see if we can take a peek and figure it out, but Vieira ended up in trouble. I think one of the lap cars ended up being the issue here. It was Derwin Kostanak. No, it actually was not a lap car. Kostanak was running in 6th time and just got loose coming over that little crest coming up to the last big left-hander. And Vieira had absolutely nowhere to go, so those two both with heavy damage, and I believe both, one down pit road. Kostanak trying to soldier on, but he'll come down pit road in short order too. But a tough break for Vieira and Kostanak with 12 minutes left to go in this race.
Yeah, very tough indeed for those two drivers. Both of them having great top 10 runs here tonight, but unfortunately with just one mistake, their night will be done as far as with a top 10 run, unless others decide to make a mistake.
Which they may. We might not necessarily be done with all that at the moment, as Framheim now down on speed. I wonder where he lost a lot of his lead. Looks like Framheim ran into lap cars and issues and troubles of some form. So let's see if we can back up and figure out what happened to Teddy Framheim.
Yeah, he is definitely struggling a little bit. Had to be some lap traffic indeed, as he just
off over in the hairpin the lap before. That's where all his time was lost. So he made a mistake entering turn 5.
That's very surprising and costly indeed, because as you see, there's Lisner, there's Christopher Pies. They're there within less than a second of Teddy Framheim as they now enter turn number 4. Let's see if Teddy decides to make it easy a little bit and keep a clean run through there. He will, hugs that line and comes off corner exit. He gets another great exit run. That gives him a little bit of breathing room before they hit the turn number 7.
Lots of racing room into turn number 7, and lots of room, I think, for these drivers to battle it out for first and second and third. I figure it might give some new life to Lisner and Pies in their pursuit of Framheim, who's been the fastest man across the board. But before we get into the final stages of tonight's final race of the evening, I'll remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by our friends at the Z1 Analyzer. The Z1 Analyzer application is aimed at improving the most important part of the car, you, the driver. The Z1 Analyzer provides a lap overview, driving line analysis, braking analysis, and turn analysis so you can quickly find out where you can improve your lap times and consistency. Get into the winner's circle more often with the Z1 Analyzer and the Z1 Dashboard. Visit www.z1dashboard.com for more information. Very, very tight in a wild, wild world at Barber Motorsports Park for the Pro Class presented by Porsche of PCA Sim Racing Series 5 now into the final 10 minutes of round number 3. And Teddy Framheim is still your race leader, but I think the most interesting thing is that it bunches these front three up for pit stops. Framheim was going to be pretty well clear of this group if he had managed to keep himself out of the gravel trap, but as such, most of his advantage is gone. He's gained a little bit of it back. He's still faster than Lisner and Pies, but
it changes everything.
Well, I was to say, if you're Lisner and Pies, you get that boost because now you can see the 106 again. But is this maybe a blessing in disguise for the 106 because you get sort of the jitters and the mistakes out of your system early, so that when you really have to go after it, when we get down to the final 5 minutes after they come down pit road, it's not near as much of an issue as it may have been.
Well, we'll have to find out. I mean, yes, he is under some pressure right now, but we have to wait and see what happens after the pit stops once everybody completes it. Will he be able to keep his cool and keep the pressure in order for these other two drivers, Lisner and Pies, as now here comes Teddy Framheim and Christopher Pies. Lisner will stay out this time, so that will give Lisner the lead, and our top two of our three have come down pit road.
So Lisner and Framheim and Pies still your top three, but Lisner's going to be the one to stay out an extra lap. So he'll lead lap number 20, and it'll be the first lap that Framheim has not led since the drop of the green flag, if you can believe it. So he comes in, and Pies will come in. We'll keep an eye on these two, see what happens with them. Nearly looks like indeed, I think, yes indeed, it is Pies who jumps ahead of Framheim on the pit stop. So now, same sort of work for him that Rafael Amorim had to come through in the club class race, and Framheim's going to have to make at least one pass to get the lead back, get the race win back.
It's going to be very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen great racing here tonight. Well, we're going to give it to you one more time before we bring it to the close. Can Teddy Framheim make it 3 in a row, or will Christopher Pies, Jason Lisner, or someone else spoil the party here tonight? Keeping an eye on Lisner right now to see if he will come down pit road. He's currently on the back straightaway, heading towards turns 10 and 11. So we should expect to see him coming down pit road this time as we are approaching 5 laps to go.
Biggest difference, though, between this situation and what we saw in that club class race. Adam Golightly, who's the man who managed to get around Amorim on pit stops, he was completely new to PCA. This was his first ever race this week. This is not the case for Chris Pies, though, who has been around since Series 1. He has the experience, and you would imagine would know how to deal with a driver. He might be just a tick faster in Framheim. Maybe, just maybe, there's enough experience to keep Teddy Framheim at bay.
We will have to wait and see right now as we now watch. Here they come out of the final corner as Lisner is just now hitting his pit box. So that will then give the lead over to Christopher Pies, and Theodore Framheim will move up into second place. So now the race is on for the race win here tonight. Here comes actually Jason Lisner off of pit road. So we have a 3-car battle right there, and we're about to have a good one.
And Framheim's going to get underneath Lisner. I think it's going to be really close. They're going to be door to door going off into the hairpin as Lisner fought for dear life just to try and get ahead of Framheim. I think he knows just as well as the rest of us do that if Framheim gets clear of these two, it's probably over. And Lisner did a beautiful job of taking away the lane from Framheim to block him out. So now Framheim back into third, and James Patak is the one who leads this race now. He, though, has yet to come down pit road, and all of a sudden, Christopher Pies has now stretched it out to a 2.5-second lead on Jason Lisner, of all people.
This is going to be interesting. Can Christopher Pies finally get a win here? And especially here at Barber Motorsports Park, you want to win here. This is the home of Porsche Factory Racing for the United States. This is something that everyone wants to try to come out here and do, to be the inaugural winner of Barber Motorsports Park for the PCA Sim Racing Series.
And I think, to my knowledge, I'm not sure if Chris Pais has a win in official series competition as Patak comes down pit road. So Chris Pais now in outright control of this race with 5 minutes and 17 seconds, 16, call it 15 and 14, 13, I think, as they cross the stripe. Rough math says we've got maybe 3-4 laps to go tops, and a lot of work for Jason Lisner and Teddy Framline to do to try and run down Chris Pines.
They're giving it everything that they have here. We're looking at laps times right now. Jason Lisner ran a 1:43.12. That's due to the fact of his pit stops. Christopher Pais, 1:29.57. And then Theodore Framheim, a 1:30.67. So Theodore's struggling a little bit behind Jason Lisner now as this laps are continue to wind down.
And Chris Pines may be en route to his first win in official PCA Sim Racing Series competition. He's been around for all 5 series and does not have a win yet. We may be looking at a surprise first-time winner as Lisner continues to hold off Framheim and back up that 106 car, who is now a solid 1.7 seconds behind the race leader with only a handful of laps left to go.
Yeah, this is going to be critical to see if Framheim or Lisner can stop battling each other and focus on catching up to Christopher Pais. But they're running out of time here as the laps continue to wind down.
Now, Chris Pines was the champion of the summer interlude between Series 4 and 5, and also has incredible amounts of talent and pace. Been around since the beginning of PCA Sim Racing. This is his 6th year Sim Racing. He was second in class in his Nürburgring 24-hour race that he ran on iRacing this year. A big lover of the 997 GT3 RS 4.0 and has a lot of fun. He's no kids, but has his partner Kelsey and a pet cockatiel named Mr. Chip.
Well,
anybody else you know that has a pet cockatiel, Taylor?
I actually do have a couple of friends who have a pet cockatiel. So I got to say, those birds can be quite fun and entertaining to hang around.
I need to go hang with your friends because it sounds like your friends are more entertaining than mine. Shoot.
Well, shoot, come on back down here to Florida. We'll have a good time.
About to say, I need to come see some of your people because you could probably actually hang with a cockatiel down there. But we won't get cocky yet because Chris Pines still has work to do. Coming down to under 3 minutes to go now for Chris Pines. Lisner continuing to keep Framheim at bay, and Framheim just can't find a way around the 92, who looks like he may have burned off his tires a little bit, and in turn, doesn't seem like Lisner's got anything for Pines.
No, it doesn't. He's trying everything he has, but I think Theodore just is not used to running in traffic as far as where he is having to catch up and pass for positions for the most part.
It's something that we talk about, especially with the oval racing side of things, how if you race in a pack and you get the air taken off the front of your car, how it immediately tightens it up and changes the way it handles. And I have a hunch, even though we talked about how these cars aren't totally aero dependent like their GT3 and GTE counterparts are, there's still something to be said about being set behind somebody, even in a GT4 car. So I wonder if that might be what we're witnessing with Chris Pines, who now has 2 laps to go to his first ever PCA Sim Racing official series victory.
I wonder if he has that cockatiel on his shoulder like some of the old NASCAR drivers used to have a monkey in their race seat.
Or the lion that Ross Chastain had tied to the back of his truck.
That too, yeah. As long as Chris doesn't throw a watermelon down if he wins this race, I think we'll be okay.
I probably did grow decent watermelons down in Texas, but I figured he'd come out wearing like a cowboy hat or something, right?
Yeah, have some way to celebrate this victory.
Mm-hmm. And Pie still in the 129s, by the way. It was a 7 to a 7 to a 9 for Framline. It was the slowest out of the 3. So this really is coming down to, can Chris Pines refrain from making a mistake? He's got room to give a little bit. He's got a second to go if he needs it, just to maybe take the edge off for a little bit, not necessarily push near as hard as Lisner continues to keep Framheim at bay. He will be kicking himself for the mistake he made in the hairpin if this plays out as is, as it is white flag for Christopher Pines. 1 lap to go to see if Pines can get his first PCA win.
They go into turn one for the final time, and it is still going to be Christopher Pies holding strong by 1.1 seconds over Jason Lisner and Theodore Framheim as they come out of turn two and make the run to turn number 4. Up the hill they'll go. Framheim still trying to find a way to get around Lisner, but to no avail at this time.
One more shot maybe for Framheim in 5, and Lisner sent it in really deep to make sure that Framheim couldn't get the run to the inside. Actually got a great stop in the hairpin there. So Framheim actually is going to lose some ground, and Pies continues to stretch it as they head off into 7 and 8 for the final time.
Here they go down the straightaway before they get to turn 7 into the braking zone as they hit that one marker, and downwards they will go, hitting the curves, trying to get the car turned in the right position before coming out of turn number 8 and heading down the back straightaway for the final time.
One more set of switchbacks for Chris Pies. First one is clean, second one is clean, and then it's all about that final run through the corner.
Here they make the climb up the hill for the final time, up through turns 10 and 11 before making the downward spit run through turns 12 and 13. Chris Pies now still has about a second lead over Jason Lisner and Theodore Framheim.
One more run through the corners, one more corner to go for Christopher Pies as Jason Lisner will keep Framheim at bay. And after 5 series of racing, it is one for Mr. Chip and all the birds out there as Sugar Land, Texas's Christopher Pies wins the PCA Sim Racing Series 5 Round 3 event of the Pro Class at Barber Motorsports Park, presented by Porsche. His first ever win in official PCA Sim Racing competition, and it has been a long time coming for the driver of the number 14.
I'm pretty sure Christopher Pies is cheering louder than probably Mr. Chip at this time, but congratulations to Christopher Pies for taking home his maiden victory.
I think that's a valid question. Who's louder at this point, Mr. Chip or Chris? I will listen to arguments for both.
Yes, we want to hear that in the chat. Let's go ahead and make a vote on seeing who's louder right now, Pies or Mr. Chip.
Get Mr. Chip in the interview. That's how we really should.
That's what we should really do.
I like that thought. So I leave it to Corvus Cornix to heed the words and see if we can't get the first ever bird interview for PCA Racing, perhaps.
Or first ever bird interview for podium, period.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, would be in that case. So, and Chris Pies also very instrumental in the EDE program that we've talked about as well, who really steps up and teaches a lot of the new drivers how to get involved in PCA Sim Racing. How big is this, though, for Chris Pies to finally get it done?
Yes, and finally get it done indeed here at Barber Motorsports Park. And this will definitely be a good momentum builder to help him get through the rest of the season.
A little bit more than a momentum builder, I would say. I think there's a little bit more in it than that. So, first time winner for the first 2 weeks in Teddy Framheim and Christopher Pies, who is going to come down the front straightaway and just park it over by start finish. And now he's going to burn it down. I don't know if we've ever seen donuts here in PCA Sim Racing, but that's not going to stop Christopher Pies. The Texan is going to burn it down in his Porsche GT4 cabin and celebrate victory at long last in PCA Sim Racing. Christopher Pies, your race winner over Jason Lisner. Teddy Framheim will have to settle for the 3rd place finish. Leif Peterson came home in 4th. James Hughes finishes P5 tonight. Chris Walsh came home in the 6th spot. 7th went to Greg Harsh. The pit strategy worked for Peterson and Hughes at the end of the day. And then Billy Smith was 8th. James Patak for Team Haggerty 9th. Liam Radzikas finished in 10th.
Mark Hughes will come home in the 11th position after battling with Dewey King and Igor Swaker in 12th and 13th. Jacob Schum will come home in the 14th position, followed by Robert Rattray in 15th. Matthew Kikas didn't have the greatest of run, finishing in 16th position, followed by Chris Braun in 17th. 18th goes to Jerwin Kosnick after his penalty, and then Jacob Schum from 23rd comes home 19th. Rounding out your top 20, William Anderson.
Michael Johnson was 21st this evening. 22nd was Josh Vieira. Shabal Ben-Yopadjai was 23rd, and Michael Coopersmith 24th. Matt Mitchell finished in 25th this evening. Gabriel Albano was 26th. Charlie Al finished in 27th, and Christian Rava rounded out the 28-car field. And now, finally, we get the chance to bring in a man who's been around from the very beginning, since that very first race at Sebring back in March of last year. And he has tried for many a time, many a chance to get the victory. And at long last, it has come his way. So now we get to welcome Christopher Pies into the booth and say, Christopher Pies, PCA Series 5 race winner, official series race winner, Christopher Pies. How do you feel? What does it mean?
That was awesome. I hope it was half as fun as it was for me in the car. That was just an absolute blast. Kudos to both Teddy and Jason for running awesome races themselves. And I think I just got a little bit lucky through the pit stop. And wow, I'm still trying to process everything.
Especially since we made a large part of it here the last minutes. You've been around for so long. You've seen so much of PCA sim racing evolve. And I have to believe that you come from a field of 40 in that first race, so now you've got 250, 300 registered members plus. And to be tops of everybody this week, that has to carry some weight, I think, in your mind somewhere, even if you haven't totally processed it.
Yeah, it's kind of vindication, everybody that's in this league, and we've seen it grow, but we've been at it for a while, especially some of us that have been around since that, like you said, that very first race at Sebring in the 911 Cup car. But to see the hard work pay off is just, that's what's really fun. I've got some experience in real life on this track and races, and I think a little bit of that was able to help me drive in traffic and kind of just sit back and be patient, let the race come to me, and I'm just happy it played out the way I was hoping it would.
A question for the fans at home: How wild is Mr. Chip going? I think it's a very valid question that we have to ask for all our bird lovers watching the podcast.
Mr. Chip was cheering me. He's I gotta say, he's my crew chief. He made a great call on fuel, and it paid off. So he's gonna get extra seed and millet tonight, I think.
Celebratory millet and seed. I like that. So it was his call to get you down pit road and to get you out just ahead. Teddy, how tense was that moment coming out of pit road to make it happen?
Oh, it was. I was shaking. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. When I did get ahead of him, I knew I had pace, especially at the end. I don't know if Teddy had run out of tires or what, but when Jason and I caught him after his, I guess it was a spin and the hairpin, he wasn't leaving us like he did at the beginning of the race. So I knew that if I could just get ahead of him, I had a shot. And luckily it all worked out.
Had to have been about the most nervous 10 minutes of probably this year, I would argue, or certainly up there while you're leading and just hoping that you don't make the same sort of mistake. No?
Absolutely.
And also, a little note from Doug Atkinson, fellow Lone Star region member. First win in PCA competition for the Lone Star region as well. So you're picking up all kinds of accolades here tonight.
That's good to hear. I have noticed over the past few weeks, even the last week especially, a lot of my Lone Star brethren have decided to jump to the dark side of sim racing, and good to see a lot of traction happening in the region. I think for a year I was the only one from the region, and I think at this point we've got like 10 plus members from Lone Star, so it's good to see good representation from Lone Star and good representation overall from Zone 5 down here in Texas in the South.
Maybe this ends up being the catalyst. If you ever needed an advertisement for why Lone Star region members should go PCA sim racing, how about one of your foremost drivers picking up a victory in the big broadcast on Friday night? Hands down, no question. So, Chris, I know plenty of people that you need to thank, and evidently birds too. So go ahead and send the shout outs, the thank yous, and let the folks know who makes it happen for the number 14 car.
Absolutely. I just want to thank my family for putting up with my crazy hobby here, and I also want to thank the real life racing teams, both KC Carden Motorsports and WTW, for allowing me to do this in real life as well. It's been an absolute dream come true. And then finally to Kongsberg, who's the title sponsor of my car. That's the company I work for letting me represent the global company that Kongsberg is here in the PCA Sim Series.
Wonder if we may just have to start calling you Birdman after this one. I think you may have earned the nickname very well, or maybe Mr. Chipper under his crew chief, but I don't think it matters in the end. All that does matter is that you are a winner in PCA Sim Racing, an official series race winner at long last. Chris, on behalf of everyone at Podium Esports and the Porsche Club of America, congratulations on your victory tonight. We look forward to seeing you at Road America next week.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys, for putting on a great show. I really appreciate what you do.
Chris Pies, race winner, Taylor Burris. A wild one at the end. I don't think a lot of people expected that to go the way it did. I don't think we did, but Teddy Franheim slipping up over in turn 5 opened up the door for a very wild last 10 minutes in this race.
And that's why we got to run these races. We just can't say, oh, since Teddy's won 2 races, he deserves to win 3rd in a row. No, we just saw a first-time winner here tonight, and not just a long-time veteran of the PCA Sim Racing Series take home his maiden voyage. So, I mean, kudos to Teddy for putting on a great show for us tonight, but also kudos to Jason Lisner and Christopher Pies for also keeping the fight going, not giving up, and we now see a new first-time winner for the Birdman.
The Birdman, Christopher Pies. Yep, that's going to stick. I could already tell. There's no question about it. So, first win for Birdman tonight. And I think, and especially judging the reaction in chat and from everybody that we know in PCA Sim Racing, this is going to be one of the most popular wins I think we've ever seen in any official PCA Sim Racing event. Chris Pies, so beloved by so many in the community, and I think everybody really excited to see what he's done this evening. And now we start looking towards Road Atlanta next Friday night, which is similarly roller coastery, but also background and backyard of the Peach State region of the PCA, which has long been one of the powerhouse regions, if not the powerhouse region, maybe the most influential region of all in PCA Sim Racing. And they get a home game next week. You know that everybody in that region is going to want to turn up big for next Friday night.
Watch out for the Georgia boys. They're going to give it all they have here at the home track next week.
Plenty of action I think we're going to see at Road Atlanta, and a special event that's also going to bring in some of the real-life PCA club racing drivers. Road Atlanta, a track that's plenty popular with PCA, and it's a very long-standing home of PCA club racing. So we'll have more details on that next week. But Taylor Burris, final thoughts from Barber before we take off.
We saw a wide variety of great racing action from all 4 classes. We've seen first-time winners, returning favorites, defending champions, and drivers trying to make a name for themselves here in the PCA. But I think tonight's race winner, as far as for the one we were most shocked about and most excited for, has to go to our pro class winner, Gary Rice, who's a longtime veteran, has finally taken home that maiden voyage. But we still got a lot of racing left to go. Can Teddy Franheim overcome this 3rd place finish into next week at Road Atlanta? We'll have to see what happens.
We'll have to regroup, but plenty of time for to make it up as we get set to head to Road Atlanta, which will also mark the halfway point of Series 5. Wild to think that after next Friday night we'll be done and dusted, but such is the way things go. This is where we stand. A few events to tell you about before we sign off for the evening, and plenty of action coming up in the world of iRacing next week. Starts on Monday night. The Sim 500 Training Service Cup Series takes their Class A stock cars to Bristol Motor Speedway at 9 p.m. Eastern. Their playoffs continue next Monday night, September 21st, on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. The Tuesday night, the best of the best in sim racing for stock cars. Tackle Las Vegas Motor Speedway as the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series returns to action at 9 p.m. Eastern on September 22nd. You can find that race on iRacing's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesday night, a very special doubleheader. The Esports Racing League heads to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. More Cup racing for you as the Anthony Alfredo's League continues its season. 7:30 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday, September 23rd on the ERL Twitch channel and Anthony Alfredo's YouTube page, and then the ERL Facebook and Bearded Sim Racers Twitch. Before the main event for the California Clash is the 1987 Ford Thunderbird and Chevrolet Monte Carlo will be the stars in a race that will be called by Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Famer Bob Jenkins and current booth voice of the Motor Racing Network, Alex Hayden, alongside iRacing's Justin Prince, as we see all the fun from Southern California. That race will be on Twitch 9 p.m. Eastern Time next Wednesday night, September 23rd. You can also find that on the California Clash Facebook and Twitter pages as well. Before we are back in action with PCA Sim Racing next Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, Road Atlanta, the site for all the action. And you can find it here on the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel if you want to see more of the best from the Porsche Club of America. It is time to close down our broadcast from Barber Motorsports Park. So Francisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, John Theodore at Podium Esports. For tonight's producer, powered by Top Flight Computers, Ryan Bauer. And for my colleague in the booth, Taylor Burris, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching Podium's broadcast of Porsche Club of America Sim Racing. We will see you for round 4 of Series 5 from Road Atlanta next Friday night, right here, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Till then, good night.